County Fairground. And so the parking lot he was standing in basically is adjacent to the county fairground. And while he was outside in the parking lot, he saw a creature that, he described very similarly to the first witness. And he said that he saw this creature and that, it kind of roared and charged the fence at him.
Hey,
and
Tobias?
so at that point, he was scared.
Tobias, let me ask you a question real quick. What did he describe this creature looking like?
Oh, sure. Sorry. So, very similarly to the initial witness, it was described as being about 8 or 9 feet tall, covered in fur, except for these large membranous, bat or gargoyle-like wings. And so, really, you could picture, and I don't think you would be too far off to picture something like a Bigfoot with bat wings.
Let me ask you this: when you seen that footprint, what did that footprint look like, and how big was it?
Sure. So it was. It looked humanoid. It looked like a barefoot print, and it was in the ice. So again, this was late February when this happened, and so there was still ice and snow on the ground, and so as we were approaching the entrance to Dewfield Pond, we were sort of looking at the ground and looking at some of the tracks around, and there were some, dog tracks, and honestly, there were even some three-toed, like, crane tracks down there and everything, which was pretty neat. But there was a lot of, there was some, boot prints from humans and stuff like that, and we get closer to the entrance, and I see in the ice this huge indentation from a footprint, and I look at it, and it's got 5 articulated toes, and it certainly looked like a huge barefoot, human footprint, and it was about three times the size of my foot, and so I wear a size 12, and this thing was about 3 times the size of that, and wow. The only thing I could think of off the top of my head in the way of any sort of mundane explanation was, okay, those barefoot running shoes where they've got the individual toes in them and it's supposed to be better for your feet or whatever and encourage, just better for running, I guess. And, okay, so maybe if somebody was wearing one of those running on the ice and in the snow in Dewfield Pond in late February of this year, they could have maybe left one track that was initially normal size, but then melted maybe and expanded from the sun. But I felt like that was something of a stretch. Like I always mention it when I talk about this footprint, because I want people to understand that I do try to consider every possibility, and I certainly am not going to ignore any possible mundane explanations. But there were some things that I found startling about this that I thought might sort of rule that out. First and foremost, it was late February, and while it had been slightly above the normal temperature for that time of year, I still think it would be weird for somebody to be out, running in those barefoot running shoes. I don't think they're very warm.
Let me ask you this, Tobias. Was there any reports in that area of any of this cryptid being aggressive or scary toward anybody?
Well, yes. That was that other sighting that I was talking about, where the guy was outside in the parking lot adjacent to the McHenry County Fairgrounds, and he said that this thing, there was a fence between he and it, but he said that it charged him, and that scared him enough where he called 911. And so he emailed back and forth with me a couple of times, and when he told me he called 911, I said, well, hey, any chance I can get that police report? And
hello, Tobias? Hello?
I think we lost him. Hopefully they're going to call right back.
Oh, nope. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
I am still here. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Anyway, where was I? So yeah, I had emailed back and forth with this guy, and I asked him after he told me he called 911. I was like, well, hey, can I get a copy of that police report? And also I'd like to schedule a phone interview with you. And that was the last I ever heard from him. He never got back to me after that. And so usually when that happens, I go, okay, well, I mean, that was a cool story, but if that's all the contact I have, then that's not necessarily a complete investigation to me. I have questions, but since he did mention that he had called 911, I thought, well, we have FOIA in this country, and so with the Freedom of Information Act, I'll get a hold of the McHenry County Sheriff's Department, and I'll see what they got for me. And so I had most of this guy's info as far as the details of his sighting and everything, and I shared it with them, and they very helpfully, in like maybe 2 or 3 days, came back and were like, yes, we do have a transcript of this 911 call. Here is the incident detail report. There was no official report that was filed because there was no proper investigation. Because really what happened was a guy called 911, sheriff's deputy came out, and obviously by then there's nothing to see. There was no monster there by the time the sheriff's deputy got there, and so he came out and looked around, but I mean that was it, and no crime had been committed. But that was really interesting to me, of course, because it shows that the guy took it seriously enough to call 911. I mean, there aren't very many people who are going to prank call 911 and then wait for a sheriff's deputy to come out and then speak with them.
Right. So basically, it was kind of a bat squatch kind of a sighting. Basically, I mean, it's got wings and looked like a Bigfoot. I got a question for Lon real quick. You recently had a report of a bright-eyed, pale humanoid in a Michigan field. I thought that was a very peculiar story, and that was very recent. Can you got any more details on that? Hello? Did we lose them again?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there you are.
That was a report I received, and basically it turns out that the witnesses noticed this thing standing in the field across from their home, and as they described, it was kind of a palish gray being, and the eyes were luminous. And that, it was standing there. And quite frankly, I think both of them did see it. But it's not, it's not anything much different than what other people I've seen in the past. Now, the fact that it was in Michigan, can kind of put us in different directions as to what it was. Now, these pale humanoids will make people mostly refer to a possible alien type sighting, or another phenomena that has been coming forward much more recently, or what is possibly a Wendigo sighting. So it was one of the two. This thing didn't seem aggressive at all. So, it had some height to it, either 5 to 6 foot in height. So what it was, I really don't know, but it most likely was something otherworldly.
Yeah, didn't they take a couple shots at it, try to spook it, and it didn't lose eye contact? And
Yeah,
kind of jumped up?
the husband came out with an air gun and apparently popped this thing with the air gun, and I suppose it spooked it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, those sightings, I don't know what to think about all those things with that and with the Rosemont sightings. And another thing, you've been getting a lot of pterodactyl type sightings coming in, I noticed also. Have you noticed there was a rise in those type sightings?
Not necessarily a rise. This is something we do get on occasion. I just happen to have a collection of sightings that I actually posted today. But this is something that steadily comes in. This pterosaur or pterodactyl phenomena has been prevalent in certain areas, in particular in Illinois. Illinois is well known for a lot of these pterosaur type sightings. It's something that we were receiving from witnesses also during the Chicago phenomena. So, but the Midwest itself has had a lot of different similar sightings over the years. And in fact, there was a very well-known case called the Van Meter Visitor, which was most likely a pterosaur type flying being back in the early part of the 20th century. So, this is something that has been seen before. It's been seen in different areas of the country, but the Midwest has had the prevalence of the sightings.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it's like Mothman, pterodactyls, or these winged humanoids. I wonder if they're all seeing the same thing, just describing them different, or misidentification, or a little bit of everything.
That's possible. I mean, like I said, when a lot of these sightings are fleeting sightings, so it's kind of hard to get a definite description of what this thing was. But when you talk to people, they're usually pretty positive about what they saw, and they probably saw it to the point where they were able to make certain identifications to the characteristics, and that's usually what they come with when they make their report.
Right, and Lord knows you've been getting a lot of reports out of that Rosemont, Illinois area, and all around. Yeah, all around.
Yeah,
actually,
that's interesting. The fact that we're getting these sightings now in the Rosemont area. I think we're up to 5 sightings now. The last one that we received was from July, but the others that we received were within a 1-month period, and the most recent one was a couple weeks ago, which had the caveat of an alien-like being and 2 female humans involved with it as well, who actually disappeared after a flash of blue light. This is something that was new, that hadn't been a part of the other sightings, but then again, it very well could have been something that was part of the other sightings. It was just something that the witnesses didn't see.
No, hey guys,
who knows what's been going on.
Got to break in here. We got to take a break for the stations. We'll be back in 3 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
As I gaze upon the annals of time, one thing that comes through: we are not alone in this universe. It's a thought that rings true. Ancient cave dwellers drew spacecraft on the walls. It's a recurring theme. I've seen the same thing while walking late at